Let's talk about Baker Mayfield, one of the more unique players in the NFL. Definitely a very unique start to his career so far. What you see on the screen is his PFF grades year in and year out. Obviously, the first 4 years with Cleveland, and then last year with the Panthers and with LA. Those are combined, and I'll get to the splits in just a second there. But you see that there are some legitimately good seasons. I mean, you have two good seasons. In the mid-80s, his grade was in 2018 and in 2020. So, that's definitely promising and something that you have to look towards and say, this is a guy who has had success at this level. However, he would not be the first quarterback to have some good years, but then not really be able to do much after that. Obviously, Carson Wentz comes to mind. We've seen it happen before, where guys, start off their careers promisingly, but don't end up doing much. Although there's reason to hope. If you're a Tampa Bay fan, there's things that you can point towards, and there's upside, because at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to get a quarterback with upside. Are there guys with higher floors out there on the open market? Sure, but are there guys with higher ceilings? Potentially not. And it feels like that's the move Tampa Bay is going with here, is trying to recapture that 2020 magic. These are his splits from, on the top half of the screen is the games that he played with the Panthers. Bottom half of the screen is the grades from when he played with the Los Angeles Rams. What's interesting is that, while I think most people would consider that his stint with the Rams was better than his stint with the Panthers, PFF does not. They have him pretty similar both times, but what's worth mentioning is, while in Carolina he was pretty consistently average to below average, in LA he had some clear flashes. He had a good game against the Denver Broncos. He also had that Las Vegas game, which we will get into once we get into the film. He had some real flashes towards the end of that game. Didn't really know the full playbook, and it's almost, I think, impressive that he was able to still post above 50 grade, given how little he knew of the playbook itself when he was with the Rams. And that might be a little bit of why perception is higher than maybe the actual results were, because even his passer rating wasn't great with the Rams either, but there were some positive things. So let's get into the film, and let's start off with some Cleveland tape. This is from 2021, so the last year he was in Cleveland, and you might remember he was banged up when he was in Cleveland. So you could easily talk about the narrative of, you could talk yourself into, well, last year in Cleveland he was only bad because he was injured, then goes to Carolina, and that was just a tough situation. No one looked good with Matt Rule, showed some flashes with the Rams. Baker Mayfield's good, just got thrown in a bad situation. But I would push back on that argument in that I don't think the entirety of why he struggled the last year in Cleveland was just due to the injury. I think there were some other issues at play, and this is the example I always keep going back to, is really the Packers game in general was a great example of this, where you see the concept on the screen. It's actually a pretty simple concept, where you have one receiver who's running a deep route, the other receiver running a route more over the middle. For Baker, the read is actually pretty simple. If the safety stays deep, you throw over the middle. If the safety goes over the middle, you throw deep. It's a pretty simple read. Baker's going to take the snap right here. He runs a play action, and then he looks down the field, and what we see right here, to me, is pretty obvious that he should be throwing over the middle. This is not a deep shot. For one thing, the receiver who was running deep isn't even getting open against the corner who's covering him, so alone, that would be a risk. But on top of it, over the middle appears to be about to get open. This feels like a relatively easy read. However, instead, Baker throws this one deep, and it's going to get intercepted. And there were some plays like this that season of Baker just making some head-scratching decisions, maybe trusting his arm too much, perhaps, which in some ways you could argue is part of the injury. Sometimes, he couldn't trust his arm as much and didn't adjust to it. But even so, in no scenario should he have made that pass. That was just an error. But then there were also some plays like this, which is another one from that Packers game, and it's a really simple play. This is third down and very long. The Browns would have to get to the 5-yard line to get a first down. Probably not going to happen, but hey, why not just get some yards, make it easier for your field goal kicker to make a field goal, right? Seems simple enough. That's what Cleveland is going to try and do here. Watch as Mayfield takes the snap. He is going to look down the field, and right there is a window to make this throw. It's not even a window. It's just wide open. This is an easy throw for Baker to make. And Mayfield just going to whiff on that one. I mean, that was just a whiff, quite frankly. He let it get away from him, and it ends up just being intercepted, and that's obviously not ideal. And on one hand, you could sit here and say, well, this is an injury thing, right? Baker Mayfield is someone who is known for being accurate in college, and then, something like this happens. I wouldn't read too much into it, but I would say we saw this in Carolina as well. This play, it's going to be, again, very simple, right? Just trying to hit Christian McCaffrey. Hey, when you have Christian McCaffrey on your team, give him the ball as much as possible. Seems like a pretty good strategy. That's what they're trying to do. Just flip it to McCaffrey, who will be underneath here. You have a receiver kind of clearing out the area, pushing 49ers defensive players further deep. Makes sense. Watch as Mayfield takes the snap. He is going to look towards McCaffrey. McCaffrey is wide open. These are layups. These are throws that really you have to make every time. You just do. Mayfield's throw, though, again, gets away from him. Is too high. It ends up being intercepted. And there is some of this in Mayfield's game of, while he's considered an accurate quarterback, I don't know if he's as accurate as people realize, and will definitely let a throw get away from him. And this can sometimes be what makes him have the reputation of being a poor decision maker at times. Sometimes he tries to fit the ball through tight windows, and it ends up getting intercepted. One thing I do talk about a decent amount on this channel is that the more accurate you are, the better of a decision maker it makes you look, because when you try to fit a ball through a tight window, it's more likely to work if you have more arm talent. Baker Mayfield, just sometimes he'll try to fit a ball through a tight window and it ends up backfiring, and now people call him an idiot for making a bad throw when, Tom Brady would have made the same throw, but he would have made it. There also were some, I don't know what you do about that type plays in Carolina. It was not a great situation for Baker, certainly, and this play is a good example, I think, where, tight end running over the middle. It's a cover one blitz, so over the middle will be open. This is a route that can work out. All right, simple enough. Baker takes the snap. He is going to wait for the route to get as open as it can, puts it in a good spot, and it looked like it was just dropped. It's possible the defender got his hand in a little bit at some point, but either way, not really much Baker could have done about that. It was a play that wasn't particularly open, but he still made the most of it, put it in the spot that he should have put it in, but it still wasn't able to be complete. It's hard to really point the finger at Baker on that one, and that's a lot of what happened in Carolina. Was he was in a tough situation and also legitimately made mistakes to make that situation tougher, I thought. I think both things are fair. It did feel like for a lot of those plays, when DJ Moore wasn't getting open, no one was getting open, and it was just a tough spot for Baker to be in. Of course, we saw him with the Rams, and to be honest, I don't know what to make of a lot of this stuff. I mean, it really was weird. It's not something that, I think it was impressive what he was able to do while knowing so little of the playbook, especially in the Raiders game, which is what the play you see on the screen is from. While this was impressive, at the same time, I expect him to know the Tampa Bay playbook, so I don't think it'll be an issue when it comes into, the next spot here. I think that this should be good. But anyways, this play, it's just a go route right here, single safety deep, pretty simple stuff. Baker takes the snap. He is going to look down the field. It's not wide open or anything. Baker just likes throwing up these one-on-one matchups, and to be honest, that's something that can get you a little bit excited if you're a Tampa Bay fan. Hey, got guys like Godwin and Mike Evans who are good at winning these one-on-one matchups, so having a quarterback who will give his receivers chances is definitely a good fit for Baker. As you see, Baker does make an accurate throw here, and they're able to get a touchdown on that one. It was a good play by the receiver, and that's a lot of what maybe you might see with Tampa Bay is receivers making good plays. That might be what you're hoping to see, is just Baker give your receivers a chance. Let your receivers be the ones who can be the stars, and he's certainly willing to do it. So is it possible he could succeed? For sure, it is. Am I betting on it? I don't know what I'm betting on with Baker Mayfield. His career is an anomaly compared to what we typically expect from players, so it's hard to really say one way or the other how we feel about Mayfield. But as of right now, I mean, he's coming off of 2 very bad seasons. The odds are against him that he will turn it around, I would say, but they're not zero, and that's what I think Tampa Bay is looking at. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on Mayfield. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.